On Sunday, Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba announced his resignation after less than a year in office, making him the latest in Japan's series of revolving door premiers. Ishiba had inherited a deeply troubled party, something that will also be true of his successor, as the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, suffers from public distrust, parliamentary obstacles, internal division, and a volatile international environment. So in this video, we're going to explain why Ishiba resigned, who might replace him, and whether the long-ruling party can get back on track. Dive deeper into politics with our magazine Too Long. Yes, we made a real physical magazine. In the latest issue, we discuss how El Salvador and Kosovo became 21st century penal colonies. We ask 6 experts what drives anti-establishment sentiment around the world, and ask if we're observing the end of the American order. Find out more by clicking the link in the description. So, to understand what Ishiba's resignation might mean for Japanese politics, you need a bit of context about the LDP's pre-existing electoral issues. The LDP, who are generally considered to be on the right or centre-right of Japanese politics, has governed Japan almost uninterrupted since 1955, except for 2 short periods out of power, 1993 to 1994 and 2009 to 2012. The party was re-elected in 2021, led by then Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Kishida was the successor once removed of Shinzo Abe, who was generally considered to be on the right of the LDP, while Kishida hailed from a more moderate faction than Abe. But within a few years, Kishida's cabinet approval had collapsed, and the LDP was sinking in the polls as a result of both their inability to get a handle on inflation, which reached a 40-year high of 4.3% in 2023, and a series of scandals, including one related to the LDP's links to the controversial Unification Church, and another that involved the LDP's powerful factions misreporting campaign funds and putting the money in illegal slush funds. In August 2024, Kishida announced his intention to resign, and by October had been replaced as party leader and prime minister by Shigeru Ishiba. Ishiba had a sort of outsider status in the party for his outspoken criticism of past LDP leadership, and he defeated staunch conservative and Shinzo Abe protege Sanai Takaichi in the leadership election. Takaichi was hurt by the fact that her and Abe's faction, the largest in the LDP, was particularly involved in the aforementioned slush fund scandal. Ishiba was always facing somewhat of an uphill struggle. Public trust in the LDP was waning, inflation was still running pretty hot, he was somewhat isolated within the party, and, as a more moderate figure, he was always at risk of being outflanked on the right, either by another LDP faction or even a new party. He tried to assert his control over the party and politics by quickly calling a snap election in October 2024, a year before the next one was due, but this didn't go so well for him. While the LDP remained the largest party, it and its coalition partner Komeito lost their parliamentary majority for the first time since 2009, with the centre-left opposition CDP securing their best result ever. This left Ishiba at the head of a minority government, with the prospect of seeking support from opposition parties on all budgetary and legislative votes going forward. Things got even worse for Ishiba though in July 2025, at the regularly scheduled upper house elections, which saw the LDP and Komeito once again lose their majority, leaving the LDP without a majority in both houses for the first time. The upper house vote saw considerable growth for the far-right anti-immigration Sanseito party, eroding the more right-wing elements of the LDP's support. The disastrous consecutive result made Ishiba's leadership virtually untenable, and while he vowed to stay on, and did for some time to deal with pressing issues like the trade deal with the US, he announced his intention to resign as LDP leader last Sunday, preempting a party decision on whether to oust him. So, what happens next? Well, there's obviously going to be a leadership election, with the new party leader then taking over as PM. To get on the ballot, a candidate must be an LDP member of the National Diet and must receive a nomination from at least 20 fellow LDP lawmakers. There's then a vote, where LDP lawmakers each get 1 vote, while fee-paying party members collectively get the same number of votes. So, for instance, if this method was used for the upcoming election, each of the LDP's 295 lawmakers would get a vote, while the membership vote would be distributed across a further 295 votes for a total of 590 votes. If no candidate receives over 50% of the overall votes, there's then a runoff election between the top two candidates. But this time, LDP lawmakers get a vote each, while the votes from fee-paying members are tallied up in each of Japan's 47 prefectures, and then each prefecture gets 3 votes. In practice, this means that LDP lawmakers have more say in the runoff than in the first round. If this were to happen at the upcoming leadership election, for instance, LDP lawmakers would collectively get 295 votes at the runoff, while the membership would only get 141. Now, the LDP will probably try to avoid letting too many candidates onto the ballot, and might even try to coalesce around a single candidate to make any leadership election as short and painless as possible. After all, the party is already pretty divided, and the last thing they need is a whole load of public intra-party mudslinging. The party secretary-general could even decide to go for a so-called emergency election, where the first round is skipped and they go straight into the second round, which last happened in 2020 after Abe's sudden health-related resignation. Nonetheless, organising a clean, painless election might be difficult, given there are a number of candidates vying for the top job. The two current favourites are probably the relatively fresh-faced Shinjiro Koizumi and Sanai Takeichi, the runner-up from 2024. This is a bit of a simplification, but Koizumi is basically the moderate or centrist candidate, while Takeichi, coming from Abe's old faction, is the more right-wing candidate. Takeichi might feel like the obvious candidate to arrest the flow of former LDP voters to right-wing parties like Sanseito, which performed remarkably well at the upper house elections. But she's been hurt by her faction's association with the slush fund scandal, and she's also lost a number of supporters at the recent election. 9 of her 20 endorsers from last year, for instance, have left office. While Koizumi could suffer the same fate as Ishiba, if his reformist centrism continues to lose the LDP voters to the right while failing to pick up independents, he'll probably argue that he's better placed to regain the public's trust and form a new coalition. For context, for the past few years, the LDP has been in coalition with Komeito, a smaller centrist party, which has also been falling in the polls, and this two-party coalition no longer commands a majority in the Diet. This is why there's been some talk of the LDP forming an expanded coalition with another smaller party, the most obvious candidate being Nippon Isshin no Kai, which is slightly to the right of Komeito. Koizumi is pretty close to Isshin no Kai co-leader Hirofumi Yoshimura, and the other co-leader, Fumitake Fujita, has openly flirted with the possibility of an expanded coalition, which would give the coalition a majority in both houses. It's no secret that problem solving is always found at the heart of politics, whether that's through making important decisions or just understanding how the world works. Here at TLDR, we want to stay on top of our problem solving too, so that's why we use Brilliant. Brilliant is an incredibly comprehensive online learning platform that helps you become a better thinker and problem solver, designed specifically to teach you everything from maths, data analysis, programming, and AI from the ground up. You don't need a fancy degree or to have dedicated hundreds of hours to studying, as Brilliant gets you stuck in at the perfect level, allowing you to first start with mastering the foundations, then helps you level up to increasingly challenging problems. Take their fantastic data courses, for example. Whether you're starting fresh or continuing your learning journey, Brilliant offers everything from basics, like data visualizations, to advanced topics like algorithms and regression models. Using real-world data from Airbnb, Spotify, Starbucks, and more, you'll learn to see trends, parse and visualize massive datasets, and make better informed decisions. To start tackling those problems and try Brilliant for free, visit brilliant.org/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen, or you can click the link in the description. By doing so, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription, and they'll know that you came from us, which really helps us out.